So what does year stand for? One second. So yes, years stands for eternal education. That's what the first 1 to 10 verses Krishna covers. So he explains the history of Gita, the parampara, that is the disciplic succession, how the knowledge transmission has taken place. He also states Gita is not spoken just 5,000 years ago, but it is way, way, way beyond. And Krishna is the first guru. How he appears, he also describes that. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya. I manifest to create the love of God, establish dharma. Then he says, what is the purpose of my avatar? Why do I come into this world? He says, Paritranaya sadhunam, delivering devotees and destruction of evil. In 4.9, he says, Janma karma cha me divyam, Lord's birth and activities are eternal. Here, so we have just seen what is eternal education. Now we see accurate understanding of this knowledge. So in this, he says, Ye yatamam prapadyante, a very, very important verse for us because Krishna says, I am responsive, I am not responsible. And he says, as you surrender to me, I reward you accordingly. Then he talks about the four varna. He says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. I have created four varnas based on qualities and work. Many of us have this misnomer, misunderstanding that varna system is based on birth. No, varna is based on qualification and work. It has got nothing to do with birth. Then he says, Namam Karmani Limpanti. He tells us what is the difference between us and the Lord. He says, my work doesn't affect me. I am not under the modes of or under the influence of the three modes. Then he talks about here, R, removing reactions. What is that? He describes karma and he ends that verse with saying, it is Gahana Karmano Gatihi. Intricacies of action are extremely difficult to understand. He explains to us what is karma, vikarma, akarma. In 4.20, he says, Tyaktva karma phalasangam. Renounce selfishness, not action. We cannot live in this world without action, even for a minute. That's the big eye opener. Yagna acharata karma. And he says, action has to be for the Lord. Action is for yajna, sacrifice. Then you can live in this world without bondage. S is sacrifice. Now, here from verse 25 to 42, he describes various types of yajna, sacrifice, and he tells us what does yajna help us. It helps us to gain transcendental knowledge. Then he says how to receive this knowledge. He says you have to surrender to the guru. You should have faith. You should control your senses. Then this knowledge will reveal by itself. What does this knowledge do? It burns away all your impurities. It purifies us. And then we are able to realize the soul that all souls are in Krishna. Krishna, where is Krishna? We try to search for him outside, but actually Krishna resides within us. The day we come to know that, that is self-realization. And he also says that I can liberate even the worst of sinners, because don't you can always condemn the sin, not the sinner, because the sinner is still an atma. Destroy karmic reactions. And what does the yajna do? It destroys karmic reactions and brings peace. So this is the overall summary of chapter 4, what we studied. Now let's get into chapter 5, which is very interestingly titled as Action in Krishna Consciousness. What is the acronym for this chapter? It is STEP. Last chapter, transcendental knowledge, was years, and now the acronym for this chapter is STEP. What does STEP stand for? Stay in the world. So Krishna, Arjuna has a doubt. So he says, first two verses, Arjuna starts again with a question. He asks Krishna, which is better? Sannyasa, that is renunciation, or working action with detachment, which is karma yoga. So Krishna gives him the answer, which we will go through. Then Krishna says in 5.6, karma yoga is equal to but easier than gnana yoga. 5.7 to 5.16, which is what we are going to cover today, he describes performing nishkama karma yoga, how we can live in this world and be free from bondage. And he very clearly says karma yoga is far easier for any of us to practice than gnana yoga. In 5.7 to 5.12, he gives us a detailed description of who is a yoga yukta. And the qualities he describes are, he says he's never entangled, he's self-controlled, and he gives us one of the most important learnings in life. Who is the doer of an action? We all talk about, I wanted to do this, but I could not do this, or I did so well, but I did not get what I deserve, etc., etc. So this verse clearly gives us the concept of how an action happens. And in that verse, the summary of that verse is, you are the doer. Yes, we do the action always, but yet we are the non-doer. It looks very difficult to understand when I mention it here, but when we go through the verse, we will really understand what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, why Krishna wants Arjuna to fight this battle. And he says this Yoga Yukta works for the Lord with detachment. Give the results to the Lord. That is detachment. How to do it? He explains that. Seeking purification. Why do you do work if you don't want results? Then that becomes a question. He says you have to seek purification. Atma Shuddhaya. By doing this, what will happen? You will attain peace. And we also want to understand what is the cause of bondage. So Krishna says it's not the action. It's not by renouncing the war that you will become free from bondage. It is renouncing the motivation. I want to win. I want to enjoy. That motivation is what causes bondage, and not the action in itself. Then the verses 13 to 16, he defines this very nicely. Who is the doer? Why does this concept come about? Doer, yet the non-doer. So he says the performer of action is always the Atma, that is Jiva, that is each one of us. Any action, we are the performers, no doubt about it. He calls them the initiator. We can desire to do something. Then there is a second step to this understanding. There is a sanctioner, and that is the Paramatma who's sitting within us. Just listen to the concept. We will get the details as we go along. And then he says, Prakriti, that is the name, material nature, the universe, which is going to execute it. So only with these three put together can any action in this world take place. And once you know this, then you start realizing, well, I can live in this world with far less misery than what I am doing today. And E, equal vision, and P, peace, which is the letter 3 and 4 of step, we will cover in the next class. Let's go to the now understanding this chapter. In chapter 3, we had it as we have discussed it as Karma Yoga. And in chapter 5, we are again back to Karma Yoga. That shows what is the importance of Karma Yoga for all of us and for Arjuna also. So, what did we study in chapter 3? In chapter 3, we studied Karma Yoga. And again, Arjuna starts with the same question, which is better? He says, should I follow Karma Yoga? Should I follow Gnana Yoga? That was chapter 3. And Krishna very clearly says, you are cut out for Karma Yoga. Gnana Yoga is not for you. Why? You don't have the right qualifications. Now, in chapter 5, this is titled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, because this karma is so difficult to understand. Whenever you read a verse, you feel that, well, oh, I have understood it. But the next minute, when you come across a situation, you are perplexed. Oh, well, is this what karma is? Why am I getting into such a mess? So and the same situation Arjuna is. Even after chapter 3, is Arjuna very happy to fight the war? He's not happy to fight the war. So he starts this chapter with the same question. So now, how do we understand what is action in Krishna consciousness? Action in Krishna consciousness means renunciation in work. And his question now, he says, should I renounce work? That is karma sannyasa. Why is Arjuna asking this? Because he wants to leave the battlefield, run away to a forest, and meditate on the Lord. And he says, I don't want this kingdom. I don't want this misery. I don't want to kill my relatives. That's where he starts from. And but Krishna is saying, when he go through this chapter, I am not talking about renunciation of work. I am talking about renunciation in work. The spirit of renunciation should be there in every action that we do. That's the difference between karma sannyasa and karma yoga. So what's the link between chapter 4 and 5? In 4, Arjuna's understanding renunciation of work. He hears, but he's confused. What is Krishna suggesting, recommending? Fight the war. He is not talking about renouncing the war. He's talking about fight the war. So since Arjuna is asking this question, he explains this question in a detailed way. in a deep way in this chapter. And what is the conclusion of this chapter? He says, Karma Yoga is better for you, Arjuna. You are a Kshatriya. You must fight the war. Let's go through how this happens. So, the first verse. Before we get into the verse, I thought I must refresh our memories about yoga ladder, because Krishna is referring time and again to Karma Yoga, which he calls Nishkama Karma Yoga, and Gnana Yoga. So, how does this yoga ladder appear? How does it look? In a quick summary, see, if you don't have anything, you don't want to understand who are we, what's our purpose, then we are all at the level of animal life. The moment we start saying that I believe in God, I want to be religious, I want to do pious things, I don't want to do the bad things, then you are moving into an animal, from an animal kingdom into the human kingdom. Here, what we are liking, it is called karmakanda, and it is called regulated sense gratification. We all want to enjoy, but within a certain limit. What is the next step? Sakama karma yoga. Most of us are at this stage, sadhakas. We have selfish desires. We want fame, we want wealth, but okay, we also want to see what Krishna wants us to do in this world. Sorry. Next comes Nishkama Karma Yoga. This is where we all have to aspire to be, work towards, and achieve. No selfish desires. No, don't try to say I, me, mine. Aham, mameti. If you are able to get rid of this I and mine, you are at the level of Nishkama Karma Yoga. It looks a big word. It's not a big word. But does it happen easily? It doesn't happen easily. Even for Arjuna, who was one of the most pure devotees, it was a struggle, because we don't understand what exactly Krishna is trying to say. So, what is Nishkama Karma Yoga? In short, is any action has these steps. Doership. We start with I did this. Krishna says, don't say that. There is a result. Don't say that I want this result. He says, give me that result. Then enjoy. I want to enjoy. Krishna says, don't say that. The moment you say that, then you are also going to get bound in this world. Work for the Lord. Brahmani adaya karmani. That's what he says here. And offer the results to me. If you are able to do this, this is Nishkama Karma Yoga, and this is what this chapter is all about. On top of this is Karma Sannyasa, and Arjuna wants to adopt this, wants to embrace this. He says, I want to run away to the forest. I don't want to fight the battle. I want to live a life of contemplation, no meditation on the Lord. I don't want to be involved in the worldly things. Krishna says, you are not cut out for that. None of us are cut out for that. Then higher step is Ashtanga Yoga, and then comes Bhakti Yoga. So, with this background of Yoga ladder, let's get into the next 16 verses where Krishna explains to Arjuna what's the importance of renunciation in action. First verse, Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna, Punaryogam cha samsashi, Yat Shreya Etayorekam, Tanme Bruhi Sunishitam. What is Krishna saying here? The translation. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? Let's try to understand where Arjuna is coming from. Why is Arjuna having this doubt? And Arjuna represents all of us. In spite of reading Gita many times, we will not get this concept right, because this requires reflection. This is not about remembering the shloka, remembering the verse, remembering the explanation. It's all about realization. Why is this confusion coming? Because when clarification, even after telling Arjuna that renounce the results and not the action, Arjuna is confused. Why? Because of preconception. We all have a notion that renunciation means, oh, I am free from all the burdens of this world. That's what he says. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna. When one takes sannyas, renunciation, karmanam is all activities, punar yogam cha, and does work, that is karma yoga. Which of the two is better? Yat shreya, please tell me. Tan me bruhi, please tell me. Sunishitam, definitely. Absolute conclusion. I don't want to have any doubts about this. And why is Arjuna confused? Because the flow of Gita is so rapid that there are concept after concept which comes across, which one comes across. And same happens to Arjuna. In 4.41, last chapter, Krishna says, renounce karma by jnana. And he says, Yoga Sannyasta Karmanam, Gnana Sanchinna Samshayam, Atmabantam na Karmani, Nibadhanti Dhananjaya. So he says, you renounce the karma by jnana. In 4.42, he says, Yogam Attishto Bharata. He says, be connected to me, Yogam, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand up and fight. So Arjuna says, in one verse you are saying renounce. He's not able to understand that Krishna is not saying renounce the action. Krishna is only saying renounce the results. And then in the next verse, you are saying, please stand up and fight. So, what is the real message? What should I do? So now, why is Arjuna confused? Basically, because what is his inner desire? All of us have the same desire. His desire is, I don't want to fight. Why I don't want to fight? I don't want to fight with my relatives. I don't want to have this kingdom as a reward. So, in his mind, renunciation means giving up. Sannyas. I sacrifice everything and I go to the forest. I retire from this battle. But Krishna says, sorry, action is the only thing which is constant in this world. You cannot do anything. So where this whole confusion is coming up? It is coming because of preconception. Now, it's like this. And why is this preconception happening? Let's take an example. So you have, let's say we are all used to binary colors, red and blue. So if anyone describes red or blue, we are quite comfortable. But if somebody comes and tells me that you mix red and blue, you get violet, and he starts talking about the benefits of violet or the characteristics of violet color, we tend to get confused. Why? Because we are not able to move away from the binary attraction of red and blue to violet. Similar situation Arjuna is facing. Let's look at what Krishna says. His answer. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karaubhav Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. What is Krishna saying here? Translation. The summary of this verse is Karma Yoga is better. The personality of Godhead replied, so Krishna is answering Arjuna, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. Listen to this carefully. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So you can follow either of the paths, but I recommend renunciation of in work is far better, or work in devotion is far better for you. Let's go through the line by line meaning. Sri Bhagwan Vacha. Krishna says this to Arjuna. Sannyasa karma yogascha. Sannyasa karma yogascha. Nishreyas kara ubhav. Please tell me which is the better of the two. Krishna is saying, Nishreyasa Karau Ubhav. Both of them are equally potent. Both of them can give you the same results. What is Nishreya? Nishreya means long-term benefit. So Krishna says from a long-term perspective, both Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyasa Yoga will give you the same long-term benefits. Tayostu Karma Sannyasat. Among these, of these two, Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Karma Yoga is better. Why is it better? Because it's easy. And what is the purpose of Karma Yoga or Karma Sannyasa Yoga? It is the same. Be detached and get liberation. Don't get bound in this material world. So, what is the understanding here? The play of words is very significant. Renunciation of work, renunciation in work. And we should just understand that in work is give up attachment. Renunciation of work is stay away from work, hoping that you will not be attached. And as we go along, we find it is easier said than done. Now, one question for reflection for all of us. See, as it is, we have attachment to family, friends, property, etc., etc. We are bound by so many pulls and pressures of all these attachments. We are born with. We can't do away with them. Even then, many of us tend to have pets. We feel that having a dog, having a parrot, no, it's a great thing. The question for reflection for all of us is that, are we not creating another point of attachment? Can we live without a pet? We all like pets. We would love to have a dog at home, but does it really lead us on the path of liberation? That's the question for us to ponder. Let's go to the next verse. Jneyasa nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdhandvo hi mahabhavo sukam bandhat pramuchyate. What is Krishna saying? Summary of this verse is a karma yogi can be a true sannyasi. So by renunciation in work, you can achieve the same result of renunciation of work. Translation: one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna, Mahabhavo. So Arjuna has many names, so he's now addressing him as Mahabhavo. Jneyasa Nitya Sannyasi is one who is engaged in Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yo na dveshti na kankshati. Neither hates, dveshti is hate, nor desires fruits of his action. Nirdando. He is free from all dualities. Good, bad, rich, poor, cold, hot. All dualities are equal to him. Sukam bandhat pramuchyate. If you are in this frame of mind, if you have this consciousness, then you can overcome material bondage and you can achieve liberation. We all want mukti, moksha. We want to be free from misery. Krishna is telling how you can be free from that. So the whole world, including Arjuna, has this fixation, preconception, preconceived notion that a renouncer is one who runs away into the forest, doesn't want to do any work, and meditates on the Lord. And Krishna is repeating again and again, saying that no, please do not renounce your work, renounce your ego. Don't get attached to external objects. And he gives three examples of how to do it. He says, Yo na dveshti. This is the first characteristic. Freedom from hatred. Now, how does this happen? Let's imagine if there is someone who gives us sorrow. So what happens? The moment we feel the pain caused by the other person, we get into this mode of sorrow. First is we feel sad. Oh, this guy has caused us immense pain. And then what happened? The first reaction is, I hate this guy. It's only because of this guy I am made to suffer. So Krishna says, overcome that urge. That's the last thing that you should be doing if you want to be a Nishkama Karma Yogi. Second, expectation, na kankshati. What is expectation? I give you something or I help you. The immediate expectation is you return that favor to me. He says, don't look at it as a transaction. And don't always look at future. If I win this war, I will get this kingdom. What will I do with this kingdom if I don't have this relatives? So Krishna is saying this kind of looking at the future or future gazing is not going to take you any far. What has happened to happen in future will happen. What is that we can do? Live for today. Live in the present. Keep your consciousness in the present. The moment you start looking at future either with hope or with despair, then you are having expectation. You want this life to treat you in a particular way. That's exactly what he says. Don't have expectations. Nirdandvo. Again, what does nirdandvo stand for? It is duality. If you like certain aspects of your existence, then you're attached to it. If you don't like certain things of your life, you are hating that, and because of that hatred, you become attached to that. You compare yourself with others, you become attached. So Krishna says, nirdandvo, be neutral. Never try to compare, never try to future gaze. Just live with your consciousness happily in the present, because that's the only thing which is in your control. And if you do this, what will happen? Sukham bandhat pramuchate. You are free from all the miseries which we face in this world. Let's look at the next verse. Now, what's the link between these verses? If both karma yoga and sannyasa, karma sannyasa yoga are the same, then why do you encourage karma yoga? Arjuna is still not able to understand, because the moment you say renunciation in action, he has to fight the war. And he's trying to resist it till the last. So now Krishna answers further. Krishna understands Arjuna is still not convinced. So he says, Sankhya yoga prutak phala pravadanti na panditaha ekam api astita samyak ubayor vindate phalam. Karma yoga and sannyasa are the same. So the next four verses till 5.6, Krishna is emphasizing only one message. Karma yoga is equal to but easier than sannyasa yoga. So hopefully with this kind of a reinforced message, Arjuna should understand what Krishna is saying. Let's look at the translation. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, that is Sankhya Yoga. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So, why go through the struggle of karma sannyasa when we are not equipped, we are not qualified, we are not purified enough to go for karma sannyasa? This is the simple message that Krishna is telling Arjuna. You are a kshatriya, fight, purify yourself, you will be liberated. So, Sankhya in here is referring to karma sannyasa yoga, renunciation of work, and yoga refers to karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga. Pratak bala. So what he's saying is that if you think that Sankhya and yoga, renunciation of work and renunciation and work are different, then you are childish. Pravadantina Pandita. Wise people do not talk like this because they understand that these two are not different. These two appear different, but they give us the same results. Now, the question is how they are same. Krishna says, Ekam api astita samyak. When one is situated in one of them, if you are a karma yogi, if you are a kshatriya, if you are going to follow your path of doing your karma, ubayor vindate phalam, you get the same fruit that you would have got by renunciation of work. What Arjuna is aspiring to get by going to the forest, he can get the same by fighting the war in the Kurukshetra battle and going through the action. Fight for what is right. That's what you are meant to do. Now, why is this message of telling Arjuna that Sankhya and Yoga will give you the same results, so that Arjuna is convinced that, okay, by going to the forest or by fighting this, I am going to achieve the same results. So in the purport, Prabhupada nicely defines this and says, he explains, if you are able to follow the instructions of doing your karma and fight the battle, then it is like finding the root of the tree. This is nivrutti. If you do karma yoga, listen carefully. If you, let's say, you retire to the forest and you don't do, and you want to meditate and you don't want to fight the battle, okay, that is called nivrutti. You're giving up, you're renouncing. And that leads to finding the root of the tree. You think that by doing that, I will get liberation. I will go back to Godhead. Fine, that is one process. Karma yoga. What do you do in karma yoga? You are trying to offer your services to Krishna, to Paramatma, who is within you. What is the result of this process? It is watering the root. So in Sankhya, you are finding the root, and in yoga, in karma yoga, you're watering the root. And this is called pravrutti. And action is far easier for us than inaction. In fact, he in the last verse he had said, Sneyasa nitya sannyasi. So why do you want to do something which you are not comfortable? Because by doing karma yoga, you are achieving the same results. Let's look at the next verse. Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tad yogair apigamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sa pashyati. He gives him another dimension of saying karma yoga is equal and easier than karma sannyasa. Let's look at the translation. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study, Sankhya Yoga, can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. What is Krishna trying to say? Yat Sankhya, that which is obtained by Sankhya or Karma Sannyasa, prapyate sthanam, The destination that is obtained by doing that, yoga, tad yoga api gamyate, that is obtained by practicing karma yoga too. So the same message in different words. Ekam sankyam cha yogam cha. And one sees Sankhya and Yoga both to be you equal. Yah pashyati, one who sees like this. Sa pashyati, one who sees thus, is the actual seer, one who can see. So he says, you change your understanding, you change your reference as to what is the message I'm trying to say, why I'm asking you to fight, because both of you, both the paths are going to lead to the same results. So why don't you follow karma yoga? Because you're a born kshatriya. You are not a sannyasi. You're not born in a family of renunciants. So the message is, there is diversity in paths, but there is uniformity in goal. So why is karma yoga better? Because it's easier for us to follow the path of action. It is very difficult for us to follow the path of inaction. I don't know if how many of you have heard of, there is a course which is called Vipassana, where you are in a secluded place. You are not allowed to talk for 11 days. You are completely immersed in silence. You cannot ask for food, you cannot ask for water, nothing. You don't utter a word for 11 days. And then when you do that, you realize even a simple act of renouncing talking is so difficult. And many people quit the course between and run away. That's the difficulty involved in not acting. So, and if Arjuna says, I'm going to be a renunciant, Krishna is saying, no, please first understand, and then ya pashyati sa pashyati, see it from the point of view that I'm trying to tell you. Now, how do you understand this example? Let's take you have an x-ray. You go to a doctor and he has an x-ray done. And if you see that film, it's a black and white film. You hardly can make out what is wrong with you just by looking at an x-ray. But if you show that to a doctor, ya pashyati sa pashyati, what does he do? He sees that and says that, what is wrong with you? Do you have a congestion? Do you have TB, etc., etc.? So your way of looking at the X-ray film defines where you come from. If you are trying to be ignorant, then you're trying to say that, oh, this film has nothing in it. But if you come to it with knowledge, a pair of eyes which is seeing what is inside, what is being shown in the X-ray film, and because you are qualified, you are learned, then you become that becomes a useful tool for you to diagnose the disease. Similarly, if you are able to understand the importance of karma yoga, you can achieve liberation by keeping on doing what you're destined to do, what you're born to do. Next verse. Sannyasastu mahabhavo dukkam aptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma na chirena adhigacchati. Same message. This is the last verse where Krishna tells the same message. And he's now giving another angle to it. And he says, mere renunciation is difficult. Let's look at the translation. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in devotional service of the Lord, cannot make you happy, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So now he's giving you a timeline perspective to Arjuna. He says, if you follow the path of devotion, what happens? Na chirena adhigacchati. So the comparison is between Karma Yoga and Gnana Yogi. Gnana Yogi may take sufficient time because it's not easy to really meditate on the Lord and see the Lord within you. It takes a lot of practice. And here he says, Sannyasastu Mahabhavo. Again, he's talking, addressing Arjuna as Mahabhavo. Oh, Arjuna, if you try to renounce, Sannyasastu Mahabhavo, what happens? Dukkham aptum ayogata. From the word dukkham, we can understand when one does sannyas without doing yoga, that is, one renounces action. Ayogataha, what will you get? You will get dukkha. Why will you get dukkha? Because you're not qualified. And in 5.2, Krishna has already said both paths are good, both will give you the same results. Now you're still asking why, or if you still persist with this question, why? Now I'm telling you, if you follow the path of renunciation, you will get dukkha. because inactivity is difficult, unsustainable, unnatural. Simply follow the path of yoga. Yoga yukto munir brahma. And what do you achieve by doing this? You can achieve uh, Munir Brahma. You are achieving Brahma. What is Chirena? Chirena is long time. So if Arjuna has a doubt that, oh, if I follow this Nishkama Karma Yoga path, will I get my liberation soon or later? Krishna is saying that there is no difference in timelines. Maybe it's far difficult for you to no renounce action. Here, you will definitely get it within reasonable time, not long time. Chirena is long time. Na Chirena is not very long time. You will attain Brahma. Now, why is Krishna saying this again? Because if you don't exhaust your desires, if you do not live what your Varna is, then you are like a fish out of water. Now, you may be wondering, why is this so? Why is Krishna saying Karma Sannyasa Yoga is so difficult? Now, all of us have studied, and we find we have graduates, we have postgraduates, we have PhDs. Now, the question is, why are there so few PhDs in this world? If it was, we are all studying, you have to put in the same effort to be a graduate, a little more effort to be a postgraduate, and a little more effort to be a PhD. But do you really find so many PhDs in this world? No. It only takes a few who have that stamina to last that long, work on meager remuneration from the government as allowances, and then you have to keep researching to find that one common good which will get you a doctorate. This is similarly the case. Don't try to be a PhD because you're not cut out for it. You are quite capable because you have become a graduate. Okay, you stretched yourself a little more, you become a postgraduate. Be happy and continue trying to move further spiritually than trying to say I want to be a PhD because I like being a PhD. You're not qualified for that. This is the sum and substance of this. And Nachirena Gachati, why he is giving a timeline comparison, because we all know a post graduation can happen in 18 months or 24 months. But can anyone say a PhD will happen in 2 years or 3 years? No. It depends on what subject, what thesis, and whether your guide accepts your thesis and declares that yes, this is worth giving you a doctorate. So that is the difficulty involved. Please realize that. So sannyasa is not for you. PhD is not for all of us. That's the understanding. We now move to the second section. Here he talks about characteristics of Yoga Yukta. The next 6 verses are going to be about how you can remain in this world without entanglement. Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriyaha Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurvanapi na Lipyate. Never get entangled. Translation: one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone. Sarva Bhuta Atma Bhutatma. And everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So now Krishna is telling us how we can practice, how Arjuna can practice Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma, one who works in devotion, who is a Karma Yogi. Vijitatma Jitendriyaha, one who controls his mind and senses. Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. It's a process of reciprocation. You love me, I love you. I love the word. Kurvan apina lipyate. So always working, he is never entangled. So has Krishna asked Arjuna to do something out of the world? No. He says, just keep doing what you have been doing. You are a Kshatriya, continue to fight the war. So now it's like, why Krishna is telling this to Arjuna? What does Prabhupada explain in the purport? He says, please understand that we are part of Krishna, like the leaves and the branches of a tree. Can anyone say that the leaf and the branch is not part of the tree? No, it is always part of the tree. And how does the tree look after the branches and the leaves? If you water the root, the entire tree is taken care of. Or another example is, if you take food, actually the stomach is eating, but it feeds energy to the entire body. Similarly, if you are able to take away that attachment, take away uh, take away the attachment, you are free from entanglement. That's the simple message that is coming out in this message, in this verse. And Krishna and Prabhupada also gives us an example, says Krishna consciousness. Now, what we are all trying to do, what is the sadhana that we are trying to work towards, is that we want to have our consciousness purified. Because we want to have our consciousness purified, we try to control our minds. Once you are controlling your mind, then your senses are controlled. So this is the process of how you start with the overall objective and slowly move to from mind intelligence to the most difficult to control senses. And that's the reason. And if you do that, that is Krishna consciousness. And then what happens now, all of us who are in this movement, we have called ourselves as das. What is the meaning of das? Servant. So we there is a conscious effort to take away that ahankar, the ego. You are nobody but a das. That's the ultimate summary. Is it easy? Not easy. But is it possible to attempt? Yes, it is possible to attempt. So, and whatever you do it in the name of Krishna. Then we slowly start developing that sense of detachment. Then he says, if you do this, kurvan apina lipyate, you are not tainted, you are not contaminated, and you are not bound. This is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna as first characteristics of Yoga Yukta. So, what is for Arjuna the message? You fight the battle because that's your prescribed duty. And why you are fighting this? Because you have been asked by Krishna to fight. Who is Krishna? He is the Paramatma. So if you do this, you're not entangled. You try to do anything else, you get entangled in this world. Looks simple, isn't it? Never end. Just do what the Lord has asked you to do. Simple. Next characteristic of a Yoga Yukta. What does Krishna say? Naiva kinchit karomiti yuktamanyeta tattvavet pashyan shrunvan spushan jigran asnan gachan swapan swashan. A very, very tongue twisting verse, but a very interesting verse. Pralapan visrujan gronan unmisan nimisan api indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. Doer yet the non-doer. So now we start getting this concept, and very, very important verse. Translation. Actually, there are two verses which are combined in this. A person in divine consciousness, although engaged, we all are engaged in these acts: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. We all know this, but how many of us really reflect on this? Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Can you ever tell your eyes to open now? Don't open now. It doesn't listen to you. It has to keep blinking. Can you tell your heart, don't beat for a minute? You cannot tell. So you are the doer. The heart is in you. The heart is beating. But can you control the heartbeat? You cannot control the heartbeat. That is the essence of learning here. You are the doer, yet the non-doer. So this whole verse is about a series of activities that we perform. It could be by the body, it could be by the mind, it could be by the intellect. But Krishna now demonstrates that all these activities are happening. You are in the thick and thin of the action, but you are not the only doer. You have nothing in your control. Let's go by line by line. Naiva kinchit karomiti. Not even a little chance is there that to say, I am doing this. I am asking my eyes to open. Yuktamanyeta tattvavet. The person who is knower of this truth. Now we are all trying to reach this level of tattvavid. At least from today, we should say, oh, well, there are so many things I am doing, but actually I am not doing. That is consciousness. That is awareness. Such a person thinks that I am not the doer of things because all these activities, they are all involuntary. Nothing is in my control. What are those things Krishna is describing? He's describing Pashyan. He says seeing. Do you have any control on seeing? Shrunvan, hearing. Sprushan, touching, Jigran, smelling, Asnan, eating, Kachan, going here and there, moving around, Swapan, dreaming. Can we stop dreaming? Swashan, breathing, Pralapan, talking, Visrajan, giving up, Gruhanan, accepting. All these things are happening in the body. Unmisan, opening, Nimishan, closing, the evacuation process in the body. Indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. So all these activities are happening in the body, but we are not the doer. We cannot claim that I am doing it efficiently than yesterday. The way it has happened yesterday, it will continue to happen today. So develop this wisdom, have this knowledge, and reflect on what is happening in me. So many actions we have described, and who is the doer of these actions? There is someone who is making this happen. And how do you understand this? Doer, yet the non-doer. Let's give an example. Now, you have an axe and you have a tree and you have a woodcutter. So, can the axe cut the tree without the woodcutter? Not possible. Can the woodcutter cut the tree without the axe? Not possible. So, if the action has to happen of cutting the tree, the woodcutter has to desire, I want to cut the tree. Then he says, I want an axe which is capable of cutting the tree. Then only the wood can be cut, or then only the tree can be cut. So what's the understanding, the spiritual understanding of this, or the Gita understanding of this is material nature is the instrumental cause. Where is this axe coming from? It is coming from the nature. So the axe is the instrumental cause. Who is the woodcutter? Woodcutter is the initiating cause. The woodcutter desires to cut the tree, collect the wood, sell the wood. So he is the initiating cause. Every action follows this sequence. Nothing changes. Let's go further. Let's say I want to talk. What happens? I have a voice box. The moment I desire as Jiva to talk, then the nature, that is the voice box, which is present in me, takes over. It becomes the instrumental cause and we can talk. So this is how we start understanding what Krishna is trying to say. Let's expand this example a little further. Let's say there's a crime which happens. Now we have the third dimension here. The criminal who does the crime is the initiating cause. The police who arrests him is the instrumental cause. Where are the police acting? Police are acting within this nature. They are following rules and they are upholding law. So police become the instrumental cause because they have to arrest the criminal. Now, is it enough? The criminal is caught. So has this transaction been completed? No. You need a judge to pass an action, an order saying that this is a crime that you have done, and as per so and so section, you have to be punished. So here the concept is you have a sanctioning authority, the judge, and the judge could be the civil court, high court, supreme court, what have you. So the concept of action now comes to initiator, instrumental cause, and the sanctioning authority. The same thing is happening when we live in this world. When we, let us say, have joy, when we have suffering, it's material nature. The universe where we are living is the instrumental cause. Paramatma, who's sitting within us, is the sanctioning cause. In Gita, he says, Upadrishta, I am the cause, I am the sanctioning authority of whatever you desire. And soul is the initiating cause, because our only capability is we can desire. As a woodcutter, as a person who wants to speak, there is nothing that we can do beyond desiring. But to get that act done, you need the help of the universe and you need the help of the sanctioning authority. Now, many times people say, oh, these are all automatic things. These are all involuntary. What is so great about it? Is it so simple? It is not simple. Absence, automatic doesn't mean absence of control. I have a helicopter, I give it a key and it starts moving around. So it looks automatic. But please remember, I had to wind the key. Only then the helicopter could move. Similarly, no action is automatic. It has to follow this process. That is the learning from this message. And automatic doesn't mean lack of control. Automatic means you don't know who is in control. That's the essence of learning. That is wisdom. In 9.10, Krishna says, Maya adhyakshena prakrute suyate sa characharam hetunena kaunteya jagad viparita vartate. This material nature we all saw is working under my directions, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving beings. By this rule, the manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it is very clear that Krishna says, I am the Paramatma, I am the sanctioning authority, and this instrumental cause is within me. And all of us have this awareness and knowledge that any action can happen only with our desire. A woodcutter can cut the tree if he wants to cut the tree. So this is the learning that we have in this verse. Very, very important verse. Let's look at the next verse. Now he's giving the other characteristics of a yoga yukta. Brahmani adaya karmani sangam tyaktva karotiya lipyatena sa papena padma patram ivambasa. What is Krishna saying here? This person who is detached works for the supreme with detachment. Translation: one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So Krishna is now even giving an example. In the same world that we live in, all of us have seen how is the lotus. It can be born in any water, muddy water, clear water, but has the lotus got any connection with the water around? Nothing. It's pure as ever. Brahma, let's go by line. Brahmani adaya karmani, one who offers the results of his actions to the Lord, to the Brahman. Sangam tyaktva karotiya, while performing his duties without attachment, giving up the false identification. Aham mameti, I am doing it. If you are able to have this consciousness, then what happens? Lipyatena sapapena. You will not have any contamination. You are not affected by the sins of your actions. You are not bound by karma. Padma patram ivambasa. Just as a lotus leaf is not touched by water. We had a similar verse in 3.30 in the Karma Yoga chapter. Mayi sarvani karmani, where he says, give your work unto me. So this material world is a sum total of the three modes of material nature, and it's called pradhana. So we should understand that we are living within this, and it is the three modes which makes us act in a particular way. Is there anything else in this learning? No. Let's move to the next verse. Kayena manasa buddhya. Now he has described the various actions, and now he's telling you further, how you can be a karma yogi. Now he's describing Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyarapi yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. Why you should be working? You should be working for purification, because we all have contaminations. We have lust, greed, anger, so many things. We should get rid of them by Nishkama Karma Yoga. The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. So, if you are offering all your actions to me, why should you work? That is the question of Arjuna. What is the motivation for me to work if every result is to you? Because now Krishna says, don't be under this foolish notion that just because you offer the results to me, you don't get anything in any benefit in return. What is your benefit? You are getting purified. If you offer your lust to me, you are going to be lust free. If you offer your desire to me, you are going to be desireless. If you offer your anger to me, you are going to be a peaceful person. So every giving has equal and opposite benefit coming your way. And what you are doing, you are trying to overcome your ego. Aham mameti. Let's go line by line. Kayena manasa buddhya. So Krishna is saying, with the body, with the mind, with the intelligence, kevalair indriyarapi, even with the senses, you can achieve liberation. Now, how do you understand this? What is kevalair indriyarapi? Now, let's say chanting. Now, we follow this path of chanting. Maybe the mind is not involved. And I try to speak about the benefits of chanting. Most of the people will say, oh, very difficult, can't do it. But Krishna says, persevere. Even if the mind is not involved, the senses is involved, because you are holding the chanting bag in your hand, you are moving the chanting beads, and your mouth and your tongue is chanting the Lord's name loudly. So, Kevalair Indriyarapi, you are using your tongue to remember the Lord, to take his name on your tongue. So, the tongue, your senses also can help you get purified. Sangam yogina karma kuruvanti. Why is the yogi working? Why is that? Why I am chanting? Because I want to purify myself. What purpose? Sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. I want to purify myself. So now, in spiritual life, you have four types of attachment to the Lord. It can be out of fear. Oh, if I don't do this, Lord will punish me. It could be out of desire. Oh, if I obey God, he will give me some good results. Let me pray to him. Duty. This is the level where we are. It is our fundamental duty to pray to the Lord. Why do we chant? Because at least for 1 hour out of 24, we are completely with the Lord. Even though our mind and intelligence may not support us, but we are at least putting our senses through purification. This is how, and which is the last one? Duty. Fear, desire, duty, and love. Love is at the most evolved phase. One cannot be a Ramanujacharya or a Madhvacharya or a Shankaracharya, because they are few and far in between. For us, as Karma Yogis, what we can do? Practice the action of yoga. Use our senses to pray to the Lord. That's what message of Krishna is. Don't try to follow the contemplative method. Follow the yoga of action. Let's move to the next verse. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena phale sakto nibudyate. Now this comes another fundamental understanding for Arjuna. Krishna is saying, it's not your action, it's not the fighting that is causing bondage, it's your motivation that is causing bondage. And it is applicable to all of us. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So this is yet another way of telling Arjuna how he should be a yoga yukta. Now here what he's doing, he's comparing a karmi with a karma yogi. Yukta, who is a yukta? Who is well situated, who is spiritually aware, and he's trying to connect himself with the Lord. Karma phalam tyaktva. He wants to give up attachment to the fruits of the material world. Shantim apnoti naishtikim. Such a person, Krishna says, you will achieve unflinching, unshakable, permanent peace. You don't have to really worry tomorrow this peace will go away. It is always with you because it is within you. It is not in some cupboard, it is not in some treasure house, or it's not in some safe locker. It is within you. If you are yoga yukta. Now you say, no, I don't want to believe in all these things. Oh, I would like to do my karma without yoga. Ayukta kama karena. You are not connected with the Lord. You don't want to remember your duty. He says, what happens? Phale sakto nibadyate. You are bound. So if you, the whole understanding is the consciousness. You want to enjoy yourself, you are going to get the results of that reaction. The moment you say, I'm surrendering to the Lord and I'm doing it for the Lord, you are completely free from all the sufferings that comes our way. This is let's move to the next verse. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasaste sukam vashi navadware pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan. Another very interesting verse. Now we have seen that doer yet the non-doer. So now in these three verses, which is the last section of this chapter, we are looking at platform of knowledge. We are going to understand how this actually doer yet the non-doer, initiator, instrumental, and sanctioning authority. That things are nicely described by Krishna in these three verses. What's the translation? When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Very, very interesting verse. So, the person in knowledge, we all want to be knowledgeable, is trying to understand the body is the performer and not me. It's the body that is doing the work and I'm not doing. And activities of body are conducted automatically by the three modes. We have seen that. It is the in nature which is the instrumental cause. So in 5.3, Krishna says, Neya Sanitya Sannyasi. So he's referring to the same sannyasi here, who performs action without attachment, is the real sannyasi. Now, what happens if you are a real sannyasi, if you are a karma yogi? He explains it in this verse. You may perform external activities, sarva karmani. You may, but you have renounced all actions through the mind. Manasa sannyasa. So don't be attached to the results. What happens? You are happily situated, controlling your senses. Sukham vashi. This is where the understanding comes. Where is the soul happy? Where is the soul living? It is living happily in Navadware Pure Dehi. What is why he says this is Navadware? Because our body has nine holes, two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, one mouth, anus, and genitals. So what, all of us have the same living place. Pure Dehi is the city. Pura is city in Sanskrit. Who is the Dehi? Dehi is the soul. And where is the soul living? It is living in the city of nine gates. So, is it, let's make it easier to understand. What Krishna says, it's like you are living in Bangalore or I am living in Mumbai. I know I am a city resident, I am a dweller. Now, just because I'm in the city, am I responsible for running the city? No. Similarly, the soul which is sitting in this body is not responsible for running this body, but you have to interact with the nature using these nine gates. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Naiva kurvan na karyan. Such a person will not be the doer. He will never say that I did it, and he will not motivate others. Please do it, because by saying that, you are not doing justice to the knowledge that you have just acquired. Like you are not the doer, your friend, your relative is not the doer. One who is happy is not the doer. One who is unhappy is not the doer. It is happening because of the nature, which is the instrumental cause. Who is performing the action? The body, mind, and intellect that is performing the action. Now, there is a verse in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. It is, Gita, when Gita was spoken, it's not that they were trying to compare whether Krishna has taken this knowledge from this Vedas. But when you start reading the Vedas, we realize that this wisdom lies even in the Vedas. It says, Navadware pure dehi hamso lilayate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya stavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of nine gates, and the living entity, who in the condition stage identifies himself with the body, then you are attached. But when he identifies himself with the Lord, he becomes as free as the Lord, even while in the body. That's so you can realize the timeless essence of wisdom. Krishna says you are just dwelling in the city of nine gates or nine holes. Just live the way a lotus is. Do not get too much attached. Do not become too much emotionally dependent on either misery or happiness. Let's move to the next verse. Na kartutvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabhu na karma phala samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Now, we saw what's the role of an Atma. The role of an Atma is it is a dweller in the city of nine gates. Now he's telling us what is the role of universe. How does the universe play the role of an instrumental cause? Let us read this. Translation. The embodied spirit, Jiva, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So that's the biggest learning that we should realize. Many things which happens, both good and bad, are not really happening only because of us. We are only one third of a contributor to any action. It is happening because of the Lord and because of our past karma, and it's happening because of the universe. You see, in this verse, Krishna is using na three times. Na kartatvam. He says, I have not created the tendency to act. Please realize, na karmani, nor I have created the karma or the prescribed duties. You are born with what you have done. I am not adding to it nor subtracting to it. Na karma phala samyogam. I am not responsible for your actions as well. You are entirely responsible. Loka. Loka means the world, and Lokasya is people who are living in this world. Prabhu, O Lord. Now, as long as the soul is in this body, the soul is the Lord of this body. That's why he is referring this Lokasya Srujati Prabhu. Please realize. And in 3.27, Krishna had said, Prakrute Kriyamanani Gunai, Karmani Sarvas Ahankara, Ahankara Vimudatmakartaham iti manyate. So the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks he is the doer of activities. But in actuality, all actions are carried out by the three modes of material nature. So what he said in 3.27, he is repeating that again here. So it is the jiva, the atma is not the doer. Jiva, atma is just the initiator, and prakriti is the facilitator. In the next verses, you will realize the sanctioning authority. 5.15. Na datte kasyajit papam, na chaiva sukrutam vibhu. Here, these two lines are talking about the role of the Lord, the sanctioner. Na chaiva sukrutam vibhu. The last two words is talking about Agnenavrutam Gnanam Tena Huyanti Jantavaha. Ignorance bewilders. Why we are where we are, why we are going through this cycle of misery, happiness, sadness, all because Tena Huyanti Jantavaha. We are trying to blame the Lord for everything. Translation. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Very clear. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. And why we should be going through this scriptures, Gita, is to try and remove our ignorance. Vibhu. Who is Vibhu? Supreme Lord. Nadatte kasyachit papam. Adatte means accept. Nadatte means I don't accept. So Krishna says, I am not responsible for anyone's papa, anyone's sin. Na chaiva sukrutam. I am not responsible for your pious actions as well. Agnenavrutam gnanam. Because you are covered by avidya, ignorance, you are trying to put the blame to the Lord. Tena muhyanti jantavaha. And this, remember, is an illusion. You are responsible for your acts. You are not the only doer. You are living in this body of nine gates. You are just the initiator. Realize this. That is spiritual understanding. Then you are neither overjoyed when you hit a jackpot, nor you are overwhelmed if you are overcome by misery. He is not responsible for good or bad reactions. So this is the summary that we should realize, and this is the most precious knowledge that one can treasure as a gift from Gita. What is that? Any action in our life, anything that we are undergoing at any point in time has to follow this cycle. Jiva, desires. So what Krishna says, control, curtail, dovetail. You can do one of them or you can do all of them. If you do that, your desire reaches the Lord, Paramatma. He verifies, sanctions based on this. And how does he verify and how does he sanction? Do you desire or you deserve? Just by desiring, nothing happens. Because of your karma, if you deserve, he will sanction it. And the nature is, after it receives the Lord's order, processes it. It is the computer which says, okay, this is what you deserve. And who is this nature? It has three modes: sattva, rajas, and tamas. This is the cycle of any action that happens. That's why this chapter is titled Action in Krishna Consciousness. Karma, action, renunciation in action. If you once realize that I am not really the contributor of anything that is happening and I'm only partially contributing to the cause, you can be more wise. Last verse, how to be free from ignorance. Agnenavrutam gnanam. That's what he says. Why we blame others? Because of lack of knowledge, ignorance. Gnanena tu tad gnanam esam nashitam atmanaha tesam adityavaj gnanam prakashayati tatparam. Spiritual knowledge destroys ignorance. Why we should take shelter of scriptures? Because to remove the ignorance. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Very, very significant verse because you are making a transition from Atma Jnana to Paramatma Jnana, Bhagavad Jnana, Tat Param. So now, how do you take away this ignorance? We all know we have Agnena Vrutam Gnanam. Krishna is saying, just like the darkness is dispelled by sun, you can dispel your ignorance by Gnana. Gnana, Gnanena tutad Agnanam. Your ignorance can be removed by Gnana. Which Jnana? The Gnana that we have just gone through, that you are not the only cause for any action. Esam nashitam atmanaha. Atmana is the soul. This way, the soul's ignorance can be destroyed. And when that happens, you become aware of what is happening within us, and you don't get, you neither overjoy or relax when things are good, or despair, or you are in distress when things don't go your way. Aditya Vajnanam. Aditya means sun. So, like the sun, the knowledge can see, you can use the scriptures as your torch. It can show light in the path of darkness. And if you start realizing this, and you realize that, okay, it is the Lord who is the sanctioning authority, then it is no longer a torchlight. It's not just showing you the direction, it also starts telling you, you can change your consciousness. Now, in this verse, Krishna doesn't tell who is Tatparam, and that is going to come in the following verses. So, if if you look at what Prabhupada translates this, he says, what is Krishna consciousness? If you practice yoga with detachment, then that knowledge illumines the super soul or the Paramatma. And that is the goal of life. Now, if you take a candle, you need another candle to light it. And one candle gives light to another candle, and there is light all around. One way of getting knowledge. Or you look at torch, as I mentioned, it shows, it shines your way through the darkness, and you can walk that path. But if you really understand, realize, and purify your consciousness, then it becomes action in Krishna consciousness. Because you have surrendered your thinking, you have made the Lord the center of your existence. That's what is Krishna consciousness. And that is the knowledge of sun. That is the knowledge akin to performing the job of sun. It illumines you completely, and you are in peace with yourself. Arjuna can go back to the war and say that, well, I am fighting this war because the Lord has advised me to. With this, we move to the summary. What did we learn so far? This chapter acronym is STEP. What is STEP? Is stay in this world. Arjuna is confused, and Krishna says Karma Yoga is better for you because you can achieve that while living in this world. Action is easy, action is constant, inaction is difficult. How you can be detached? Example is a lotus flower. Krishna says Both Karma Yoga and Sannyasa Yoga gives you bliss, liberation, but Karma Yoga is better than Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Who is a Karma Yogi? One who is free from love, hate, and above duality, can rise above duality. What does renunciation leads to? If you don't renounce your results, if you try to say, I want to be in inaction, you will only get dukkha. But if you renounce in the spirit of action, as a karma yogi, you can attain Brahma, the Lord. And then in 7 to 12 verses, he talks about the characteristics of a yoga yukta. He says, you are never entangled, you are self-controlled, you are the doer, yet the non-doer. You work for the Lord with detachment. Why do you work? Because of purification. And what do you get by doing this? You attain peace. And what is the cause of bondage? It's not action, it is motivation. Then he gives us the most important platform of knowledge, three doers. Performer of action is Atma, initiator. Paramatma is the sanctioner, and the universe is the executor. And what does the knowledge do? The knowledge acts like the sun. It removes our complete ignorance. The next class, we look at what is equal vision and what is peace. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any questions?
When would be the next class, Shyam?
It's generally the second Sunday of a month, Ravi.
Okay.
So we have now on February 13th. The next class should be around March 13th or March 14th.
Okay. Good session, Shyam. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you. Alok, Murari, any questions? If you have no questions, then
Sham, your frequency has increased now.
What is that?
Frequency, that gap is not coming. Now it is improved.
I see.
Compared to last 3-4 sessions.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Murari.
You're here now. You're here.
Yeah.
That is coming very nicely when you compare to first or second.
Okay.
Now it is the frequency is increasing. The word frequency is increasing.
Okay.
Otherwise, there was a cut sometimes. In starting, you'll not get the word immediately.
Okay.
5-6 sessions is improved.
I see. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. This time was very nice.
Thank you very much.
And what is surprising is, Shyam, Vrindavan broadband is helping you. I was wondering whether Vrindavan broadband will pose difficulties for you.
Hey, see, we have the same Airtel in Vrindavan. And north is the stronghold of Airtel.
So,
Jio.
broadband, or are you using your hotspot of your mobile?
No, I have taken a Wi-Fi connection.
Okay.
I can't do a video call with a hotspot.
Agree.
Very difficult.
Mobile data is not sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to have a Wi-Fi only.
Yes.
Now you cannot do normal calls. Everybody is calling on Wi-Fi only because of clarity.
Exactly.
Normal calls, you have to 5 times you have to call.
And it will get disconnected and they won't be able to listen to you also.
Somebody.
Fortunately, there was no power breakdown. Then it's a pain in Vrindavan. Even if it goes for 2 minutes, you lose the connection and then, getting connected back. It's a mess.
All running battery also, no? Battery backup.
No, the Wi-Fi doesn't work on battery backup.
No,
if power goes,
not
your
small
connection
ones,
is
not the house one.
I get power in 2 minutes, but the power is not only going in my house. It goes in the place where this hub and
Okay, Sham, I understood. You have a battery for the whole house, sir?
Yes, we
Yeah.
have a generator
But
backup.
generator backup, not battery backup.
No, not battery backup. It
Acha,
takes
acha,
2 minutes
acha,
to
acha.
switch on.
Okay. If battery backup means there is no cutoff
Loss of
directly.
power at all. Correct. It's
We
not
use
battery.
that twice. It has
Okay.
gone electricity. Still,
Okay.
I'm.
I see. Very good.
Okay.
We don't have that here.
Acha, okay. But totally, you have settled in Mathura or
Hey, not totally
after?
settled. I am on leave for another 10 days. So,
Oh, so long. 1.5 months, sir. 2 months.
no. I'm on leave now.
Acha, okay.
So we came here yesterday. We leave on 25th.
But last time also you have given this thing from Mathura only.
That time I was working from here.
Acha, working from home.
Yes.
Okay.
I had taken a week leave for Christmas and New Year.
Acha, okay.
And then I had a week of working from here.
Okay.
So that's how I took the
Good.
last class also from here.
Okay. Good. It was very nice.
Thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Enjoy your
Thank
Sunday
you.
evening.
Thank
All
you
the
very
best.
much.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice
you.
time.
Thank you, boss. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And